Welcome back to Talking with Ted on this warm afternoon where we are focusing on a special aspect of our annual summer reading program. Our friends at the State Library who sponsor the program partner with the State Parks Department of Arizona, and so we're going to conduct a program in our final few days of the summer reading program here in 2025, but it's not really a time limited thing because every year this happens, that the State Library and State Parks partner together to incentivize participation in our summer reading program. What a great idea. Incentives, and one of the best incentives that there is involves complimentary day passes. Okay, so we're going to give away 25 day passes to state parks across the state of Arizona. They will expire in 1 year, so you have 12 months to use them. All right, and so we're going to have a trivia contest regarding our state parks, along with a word find, and we'll draw winners during the last days of our program. And while this is 2025, this is not going to time out. We've done this for years and years and years, and so I expect it to be again happening and offered next year and the next year. So look forward to that, and we are going to give you a sampler of 10 parks in the system. There are 33 parks in the system, and they have a great website. It lists all the parks, things you can do, and the parks are different. Some focus on history, culture, like the Reardon Mansion in Flagstaff. Some focus on some rather unique elements in nature and the environment, like Kartchner Caverns. There's a prison in Yuma, there's a lake in Patagonia, so it just varies widely. And wherever you want to use these parks, you can use them. You have 12 months, so summer, winter, whatever works best for you, near, far, you will enjoy them. The Arizona State Parks are incredible in their range, diversity, size, etc. Now, they typically are a little on the smaller side than things like the Grand Canyon, obviously, and stuff like that. But the really cool thing is that they are often situated in a place where you can then start there, and if you are an outdoor hiker interested in more rugged terrain, you can launch your trip, your adventure from the state park, like Lost Dutchman, and venture off into the superstitions, like Buckskin State Park, and venture off into the Gibraltar Mountain Wilderness, etc. So they're the beginning, but it can just go on as far as your adventure wants to take you. So we're going to go through about 10 parks and briefly highlight them as jewels in the system that I've personally been to and have focused on the outdoor hiking part. Okay, so since this is a library, how would we arrange this? Alphabetical. There is order to our world. Okay, so I'm going to start with Buckskin Mountain State Park. All right, so Buckskin Mountain is over on the Colorado River near Parker, and it is a river park. Okay, so you've got the Colorado River there, you have boating, you have camping, you have cabins, you have showers, you have all kinds of cool things, but you can also start hiking and go off into the Gibraltar Mountain Wilderness, and this is one rugged piece of Arizona landscape. All right, so cross-country options, the trail system within Buckskin Mountain Park itself is rather limited, but that's all right because you can keep going. All right, so obviously the hiking part you probably want to hit in the winter. The boating part you might want to hit in the summer. So this is an all year round park. Okay, whatever element that you want to take advantage of, it would fit in seasonally to whatever you're interested in. Okay, all right. Buckskin Mountain State Park. Next, Catalina State Park. Now this park is in the Catalina Mountains, and once again it is in the foothills of the Catalina Mountains, and the Push Ridge Wilderness is right next door. So again, like with Buckskin and these other Lost Dutchman, you start here and you could be hiking up into the Catalinas, go up to 9,000 feet, though the park itself is in the desert, Sonoran Desert, just northwest of Tucson, so it's probably going to be a winter park that you would use and take advantage of, all right, and a limited trail system. But probably one of the strengths of this park is when we have a decent wildflower season, is to enjoy the spring wildflowers. And if you're lucky, I was not lucky, you might see bighorn sheep up in the Push Ridge Wilderness, up in the rocks and mountains and cliffs and so forth, all right? So the scenic opportunities are vast here in Catalina Park, but also in the other parks as well. Okay, Catalina State Park near Tucson. Okay, you have a campground there, and very accessible. Buckskin, you know, way off the edge of the state. All right, next, a little closer to home here in Yavapai County is Deadhorse Ranch State Park. Now, this is a rather peculiar name for a park, but that is what it's called, and there's historic elements, and they will explain that when you go to use the park. This park, like Buckskin, is on a river. This is the Verde River, so there's boating options, not like power boats like on the Colorado River, canoes and rafts and kayaking things, so paddling options, but lots of shade, limited trails. But once again, like the other parks, this park is situated to where you can then continue on a more extensive trail system like the Lime Kin Trail, which goes all the way to Sedona. Okay, so you can explore as much as your heart desires. It's very conveniently located in around Cottonwood there in the Verde Valley. So lots of views of the surrounding mountains, but it's down there along the river. So again, camping and hiking and boating, fishing, don't forget the fishing. Okay, so Deadhorse Ranch State Park. On each of these parks on the website for the state, you will find links, maps. They will have bird watching programs. They will have concerts. It just depends on the park. And so you'll want to check the website before you go, reserve your space possibly ahead of time, and see what other enriching opportunities you have at a specific park. It's not going to be the same at some other park, you know, more likely. All right, so next. Now this next park is rather unusual in that it is a one trail. There's no accommodations. There's no visitor center. There's a portage on there, and that's about it. Okay, so this is a Granite Mountain Hotshots Memorial State Park, where it has one trail up to a site overlooking the memorial, and then you can take, it's really an extension of the same trail down to the memorial, and then you're going to come back the same way. I took a loop on a cross-country route just to bring variety into the hiking experience for myself, but technically it is one trail up and back. What is special, they will have placards all along the trail explaining each of the firefighters who was lost in this tragic event. They will have placards that explain the role of fire in the Southwest. Okay, this particular trail also, or park, is limited in its hours. Okay, it says that it closes at sunset. So this is not a place, unfortunately, that you might be able to take a full moon hike, because it is very open, and it would be very easy to do a full moon hike, but they limit the access to sunset. So this is a daytime park. In the summer it would be a little toasty. You'd have to hit it real early in the morning, but it is a real truly unique experience to hike this trail. It is unlike any park in the state. Okay, so very worthwhile. Great views out over Wickenburg and all that. Weaver Mountains there. So, and the wildflowers in season will be quite amazing as well. So it just depends on our moisture that comes along. The odd thing, and I'd have to give you a heads up, the parking here is pretty weird. When you go down the road from Yarnell and you park at the park, there's very limited parking there, about a dozen spaces is it. And once you go to Lee, you can't go right back to Yarnell. You have to go all the way down the hill, come around, and either go to Wickenburg and off around that way, or then turn around and come back up the hill, all right? So it's a little strange, all right? So be aware of that before you head off over there and get kind of turned around, okay? All right, now another special park is Kartchner Caverns, and this is down in southeast part of the state, north of Sierra Vista, south of Benson, in that area, part of the state, where there's some unique geology, limestone, and it has fostered the formation of a variety of caves, all the way from Carlsbad Caverns over towards Texas and New Mexico to this park with its cave, and there are some private caves also, Cave of the Bells and Onyx Cave, which you have to get special permits, and they're technical caves where you've got to do some rock climbing stuff. But this cave involved a huge investment in time, money, resources, expertise to preserve this space. Okay, so there's two aspects to Kartchner Caverns. There is the cavern, and it's a guided thing, and you're gonna see some incredible formations, stalactites, and all that stuff. They'll have programs there related, obviously, to the cave, bats and viewing, that kind of thing. But that's not all there is there. That's the big part of what is there. There's campgrounds and RV space and all that. But there are also some other hiking trails around there in the park itself. And this is a higher grassland part of the state, so it's not as much of a deserty like Tucson and all, and Phoenix and so forth. It's more desert. So it's a higher grassland, so it's a different ecosystem. But when you're hiking around, you can go off into the Whetstone Mountains, Coronado National Forest, and extensive trails. And once again, you could start here and just keep going and going and going, and spend a lot of time there. Okay, so they have interesting history of how this cave got formed and discovered and developed, and so a great visitor center, gift shop, all that sort of thing. One other thing I should mention, since I have done this myself, you can volunteer at these parks. And I have volunteered at Lost Dutchman, Tubac, Presidio, which we're going to talk about, Kartchner Cavern, to lead hikes on the trails, or do a program related to survival or vegetation or flora. So check the site, check the park to see what programs they're offering, because that will vary year to year. Okay, so Kartchner Caverns, great views when you're hiking on the hills around there. You would, of course, never know that there's this huge cavern beneath your feet. Very interesting. All right, Lost Dutchman State Park with the infamous Superstition Wilderness and the Lost Dutchman Gold that's out there somewhere, right? Okay, so there are some people there that you will find looking for this gold to this day, so be prepared. So Lost Dutchman State Park is on the west end of the Superstition Mountains, the Superstition Wilderness, and we will have some shots of hiking once again off the limited trail system within the park, and they've got cabins and camping spaces and all that sort of thing there. Upper Sonoran Desert, so this is a winter site probably for the most part. But once you start hiking up in Siphon Draw, for example, there are some very rugged routes to get up into a formation called the Flatiron, and the views out over Apache Junction, and to the south, you know, Queen Creek and all that sort of thing is just incredible. So some rather amazing, the best wildflowers I've ever seen, in my opinion, in the state are in the Superstitions, depending on the season, of course. Some people rave about Picacho Peak, which we'll mention in a moment, but I would say the Superstitions offers the best opportunity for spring wildflowers in season when we have a good season, which is not 2025. Okay, all right, so close at hand, right out of Apache Junction, convenient, great people. When I have volunteered at these parks, great people, great staff in all these parks. So they are very, I can tell you some stories about some of the edible plants that they were sorry that they ate, but I'll leave that for another thing. All right, Picacho Peak State Park. All right, this is between Phoenix and Tucson, off of I-10. I'll have to make fun of one of our library staff. We were having a little evening gathering at someone's home, and he asked if I'd ever hiked in Picacho. I said, Picacho? What's Picacho? He said, it's right on the highway, and the freeway goes right through it, and you go right through this volcano. It's a volcano. I'm going like, what? I'm only a native of Arizona, been hiking since 1968 in the state, and I do not know what Picacho is. Freeway, going through a volcano. I'm thinking San Francisco Peaks, Flagstaff, Sunset, what's he talking about? Well, he didn't know how to pronounce Picacho, and he thought it was Pikachu. So, anyway, you can kind of tell who the out-of-staters are pretty quick. All right, Pikachu. Peak State Park. Picacho and peak means the same thing, so this Spanish and English redundancy, but that's okay. So, this park is this big volcanic-like structure, and the geology of this thing is still being studied and is debated and all that sort of thing. But it's a huge landmark that you can't miss. This is the site of our only Civil War battle in Arizona, was at this site. All right. So the hike is exciting. I want to show you pictures of my son at, I guess, 6 years of age. You have to hang on to cables, and you go up the cliffs, and they put cables there to help you. Hold on. So my 6-year-old, and then when he's 16, and then when he is 26, in the same basic place, scrambling up, hanging on to these cables. And so it's not a normal trail situation. And so it's kind of steep, and it's kind of rocky. And of course, you don't have to go all the way up, and there is another trail that stays down low, but expect to be almost a cross-country scrambling situation in a couple of spots. This trail also closes at sunset, and I have been caught after sunset, and that's when you will run into some curious rattlesnakes. I did in one of our other summer reading programs videos talking about tails, and tails was a tale about my encounter with a rattlesnake on Picacho Peak. It was quite exciting. All right, so great views, of course, up at the top. Great visitor center, gift shop, great facility. All right, back to Yavapai County, Red Rock State Park. Now this park, again, is just different. It's unique. There was a executive with, I think it was American Airlines, and they had this acreage, and they ended up gifting it to the state, and they have turned it into a state park. And it is right there on Oak Creek. Great views, great gift shop, limited trails, but once again, the trails off into the Coconino National Forest toward Cathedral Rock, and I think one called Turkey Creek, give you the opportunity once you cross the creek, and this one has a nice bridge to get over the creek with. Red Rock Crossing right next door does not have a bridge, and you have to get wet over there. But here at the state park, there's a nice bridge. You can get over there, and you can look at this house and how it was a part of their family and history. Quite interesting, and in season, you know, Red Rock Country is incredible to begin with. You put a little snow on there in the winter. This is an all-season kind of park, and each of these parks, you have to also pay attention to the fees that are required. But of course, since we have our annual pass, or day passes, you don't have to worry about that. Of course, like the Granite Mountain, there's no fee at all for that one. Okay, so anyway, bear that in mind, check the site ahead of time. But Red Rock State Park, Red Rock Country, Sedona, beautiful, along the creek, shade, wildflowers. This one is also curious in that you are walking right next door to someone's backyard in these big houses. And so it's not exactly a remote experience, but that's okay, because that may be what you're interested in. All right, couple to go. Tonto Natural Bridge, which is over north of Payson, below the Mogollon Rim there, and it is a curious geologic structure, this creek that goes through the rocks, and you have this great big rock bridge, okay? And the trail winds around, limited trails, but this also has an historic lodge that you can now rent out for groups to use this incredible facility. Beautiful grounds, green, lush, water running down below in the creek, so very lovely, right off the road there to Payson, and offers, again, a unique piece of Arizona. Arizona has got to be one of the most diverse and incredible in our space, especially mountains, deserts, snow, cactus, all of it, right basically in our backyard, all right? So check it out, Tonto Bridge, State Park. Interesting flora there too, okay? Water. Parks with water in Arizona, those are the ones you want to check out. All right, our final one, more water. Tubac, Presidio, down south of Tucson. This park is mostly an historic park, all right? I did a program there on riparian vegetation. It's right on the Santa Cruz River, all right? And I'm going to show you pictures of hiking when there was a lot of water, and it's pretty muddy. But they have a trail called the Anza Trail, and it is an historic trail, all right, where you had Spanish pioneers and missionaries and so forth coming through there, and you can hike from Tubac, Presidio down to the Tumacacari Historical Mission, which is a federal national monument. All right, so you can hike from one to the other, as well as taking in the historic displays and museum-like quality that's there at Tubac, Presidio, south of Tucson, off of Interstate 19. All right, so that's a sample of our Arizona State Parks. There's lots more out there. Participate in our summer reading program and take advantage of the many opportunities you have to win day passes, so you can check these out at your leisure for no cost to get in. See you next time.